Okay, this is the Fashion and Textiles Pathway talk. This talk explains what the Fashion and Textiles Pathway is about, what things you can study, and also the courses you can do, take degrees in. And it kind of explains our ethos for the course as well. Good design begins with honesty, asking tough questions, collaboration, trusting your intuition. I feel like this is a really good quote and it sums up our kind of ethos of the pathway. Freeman Thomas was a car designer, but I think this idea about constantly asking yourself questions and collaborating is very important, particularly in the fashion textiles pathway, where in the industry you will always be working in teams of people. What goes on here? What's expected of you? Appreciate that everything is a bit new to you at the moment, but hopefully the next few slides will explain what's expected of you. We expect you to throw yourself into everything, try new experiences, be open-minded, challenge us, ask us questions, and that will help you to learn about yourself and which pathway you want to go into. This is an image from a piece of work that was made by a group of students. It was someone's FMP project, and the student asked every person in the room to make her a piece of work, whether fashion promotion, fashion design, textiles or costume, that related to the colour red, and she then created an exhibition of that and also made a magazine, but it's a good example of the kind of collaboration that goes on. This is our kind of mission statement as a pathway. I think it's really, really important, and it explains what we believe in totally. So we work with ideas for fashion, costume, textiles, fashion imagery and promotion and their display. We believe in ambition, experimentation, originality and collaboration. We organise various live events which are student organised and run, and live projects. We're very passionate and enthusiastic as a team of staff, and especially we believe in sustainability and the ethical use of fabric and ideas. This is some work from previous year's students. This is part of the final major project exhibition where we have a concept store and the students also organise their own photo shoots of their own garments. And this is the same thing. As you can see, the students are encouraged to create objects and garments and all kinds of things that are quite innovative and unusual. We don't kind of say, oh no, that's too big or this is too small. There's also an image of the fashion show as well. And this is an image of the concept store, and the image on the right is of, it's a Nepalese student's work, and she was inspired by the Nepalese earthquakes where actually her family had survived, but they had actually been involved in them. So this is a very poignant piece of work, and just say she's used unconventional materials to make this dress. This is a quote which you might have seen. It's quite a famous statement, and this is the late Louise Wilson, who taught fashion at Central St Martin's for many years on the MA. Despite the swearing, I think this is a really good statement, and I had it on my notice board for quite a long time. I need to get another print of it, but it really spells out about the kind of struggle that's involved in design, and the kind of expectation of critique and questioning and pushing yourself that should happen if you're doing something really exciting. This is Paul Smith, who is a fantastic, famous British designer, and he's written books about curiosity and collecting and the impact that they can have on design. He also designs a lot of textiles as well for his garments. So we believe in being curious, and so does he, and that's really important, like noticing things, recording things, being interested in the world around you. We want you to look deeper, but we also expect that, you know, it's okay to say, I don't know how to do this, I'm not sure what to do next. We're here to help you realise your ideas, and we can work it out together. What you wear is how you present yourself to the world. So this is a very famous quote by Prada. And fashion is communication, whether we think we're fashionable or not. The clothes we wear are telling other people who we are and what we're interested in, and also whether we're their kind of people or not. So even the most unfashionable people who would say they're not interested in clothes at all are still communicating to other people who aren't interested in clothes that they are similar. So we can't get away from it. What we dress shows who we are to other people before we speak. This is Christopher Kane in his studio with his sister, and this is quite an important kind of image, because really this is what the studio looks like here at UCA Canterbury. There are sewing machines, there's a pattern cutting table, there are dress mannequins. The way that clothes have been produced has not really changed for hundreds of years. Obviously sewing machines have become faster and there are machines that can then cut out things more quickly, but essentially there are rolls of fabric, they're cut out into shapes and they're sewn together to fit the body. That used to be hand sewing, but obviously now it's on a machine. Women's wear design, you can study women's wear design, you can be a women's wear designer. Women's wear design encompasses everything from designing the clothes that are sold in Asda that need to be a particular price point and still need to be fashionable, to working for Stella McCartney and doing very high conceptual, sustainable fashion. You'll be working in a team of people, you're thinking about how people dress, what they want to wear, and how you're going to make those garments. If you want to find out about women's wear, look on Vogue.com. There are every fashion show for the last 10 years, backstage interviews and all sorts of things. So you can inform yourself quite quickly about who you think is interesting and who you like and who you don't like. Menswear design, particularly exciting field at the moment. J.W. Anderson, who is one of the people mentioned on this list, was the first designer kind of 5 or 6 years ago to push the boundaries of gender fluidity and what men will wear and what is menswear. Christopher Rayburn is a pioneering sustainable fashion designer, and he runs an open studio which you can just go and visit on a Saturday, and talks about his process. And Craig Green, whose work is in the middle, is very unconventional, works with kind of extreme silhouette and is almost architecture instead of clothing. All very, very exciting, pioneering designers who started off as small companies and are now actually quite big and have quite a lot of impact. You might want to be a pattern cutter. Pattern cutting is the problem solving of fashion design. It's the 3D thinking. It's how flat fabric is turned into incredible three-dimensional shapes. If you're working on a stand this week and you find it really enjoyable, or you start taking your shirts apart and you think, oh, this really speaks to me, I'm very interested in the shapes and how things go from 2D to 3D, pattern cutting could be for you. Any good fashion design course, like the ones at Rochester, will be teaching pattern cutting and 3D construction as an integral part of the course. You might be interested in knitwear. We teach you how to knit on the foundation course at UCA Canterbury. And knitwear design is very exciting because it combines ancient hand processes such as hand knitting with also the kind of vanguard of digital technology. The company on the right, Knyttan, you can go into their studio, you can design a jumper on their computer while you're there, and it will knit while you wait, while you're having a coffee, and the jumper will come out of the machine. So very, very exciting. Knitwear is also exciting because it kind of bridges the gap between textiles and fashion. You might be interested in costume. Costume obviously has a lot in common with fashion in terms of how the garments are made, although quite often for costume you're kind of amending or changing or using historical garments, particularly if you're dressing lots of extras. They won't make everything new for them. A lot of the things will be found garments that are made dirty or whatever it is. If you're interested in costume, you must be interested in understanding text and taking ideas and referencing from the written word and conjuring up a character, and also communicating identity and personality through the clothing. So using a narrative is very important if you're interested in costume. You might be interested in shoes and accessories. Again, a very expanding field. Most stores now that design clothes actually have accessories alongside. Very exciting. If you want to start designing shoes and bags straight away from the beginning, that's fine, we'll help you do that. Obviously you have to use hard and soft materials when you're doing shoes and bags. You might be interested in printed textile design. Printed textile design has a lot to do with illustration. It can have a lot of narrative, a lot of storytelling to it, just as illustration does, where it communicates a lot, but equally it can be very decorative. With the kind of advent of digital print, you can now print anything which you can get on a computer screen. You can print onto a myriad range of fabrics, surfaces, textures. You can even print and etch on the outside of buildings now. And there's our own Zoe Murphy in her studio, and she prints on recycled furniture. You might be interested in woven textile design. Most woven textile design is part of mixed media textile courses where you'll get to study print and knit and weave, for example. Woven textiles are where the colour and the pattern of the fabric is designed as the fabric is made. You might be interested in embroidery. We are linked at UCA to the Royal School of Needlework, which is really exciting. It's the last kind of British remaining hand embroidery school. A lot of hand embroiderers work both with fashion designers, creating embellishments for garments or in interiors, but they also create fine art pieces, as in this Fox by Karen Nicol. Fine art, fashion, textiles. This is any work which kind of encompasses and uses the processes of fashion and textiles, so pattern cutting, sewing, using fabric, weaving, crochet, any of those kind of traditional garment or craft processes that are about fabric, but it's communicating a message and a concept in a way akin to fine art, and also would be expected to be shown in a gallery. You might want to be a stylist. Stylists work with clothes and are very creative with clothing, but they don't make the clothing. If you want to do styling, you need to be very resourceful, very sociable, because quite often it's working in a team of people you've just met, and also very inventive. The best stylists like Venetia Scott and Katie Grand and Grace Coddington can kind of create amazing, imaginative images just by the use of clothing and scale and proportion, and they work very well with particular photographers and models. You might be interested in hair and makeup. This is Pat McGrath, and she's obviously a really famous makeup artist. She has her own makeup line. She consults for MAC. She works with lots of fashion designers designing makeup looks for their fashion shows, which then translate down into makeup that we buy. She's also done makeup for film and theatre as well. Again, you need to be very inventive. If you want to do makeup in this pathway, that's totally possible. We'll help you do it, but you must be prepared to do the makeup on yourself and be really inventive at all times. You might be interested in social media, marketing, or becoming an influencer. This is obviously part of fashion promotion. There obviously are the influencers who promote their own look, their own style, their own opinions through those social media channels, and because of that are sponsored and promote products for other companies. But increasingly, most brands and most fashion designers, a lot of interior companies, a lot of design companies now hire fashion promotion professionals who organise, run and create content for all of the social media channels, because essentially that is free advertising. You might want to be a fashion journalist. This is Edward Ennuinful, who is the first black editor of British Vogue and the first male editor of British Vogue, and he was given an MBE recently. And there he is with Naomi Campbell. And there's also Anna Wintour, who used to be his boss, who is the editor of American Vogue. Fashion journalists, very, very powerful. Although press journalism is kind of becoming increasingly rarefied as a lot of things and a lot of magazines move online, the big editors of companies such as Condé Nast still have a lot of power. It's a very glamorous job. They get to go to all the fashion shows, they get to go to all the presentation, but you must love writing and have very strong opinions about clothes and design and be able to communicate those to become a fashion journalist. You might want to be a fashion illustrator. This is very, very rarefied and a tiny, tiny field of professional people. However, if you're creative, if you draw all the time, if you work on your fashion illustration, you can be successful. A lot of fashion illustrators work not just doing fashion illustration, they collaborate with websites, they illustrate catwalk shows, they do shop displays, they do individual commissions. Connie Lim, who's on the right-hand side, teaches fashion illustration at UCA Rochester and also has a really own very successful practice selling illustration to galleries, doing live drawings at catwalk shows and collaborating with Show Studio. If you don't look at any other website this week, please look at showstudio.com. This is a website that was set up by Nick Knight, who is a fashion photographer, and he decided to embrace the transition from analogue photography to digital photography, and then also into fashion film. And so instead of kind of denying it, as a lot of fashion photographers did at the time, he thought, this is great new technology, I'm going to be at the forefront of it, and set up Show Studio originally to showcase his fashion moving image. It's now become a fantastic showcase for innovative collaboration between musicians, artists, fashion designers. There are a whole series of interviews on there with fashion professionals and incredible imagery and all kinds of things. So if you only look at one website this week to find out about fashion, please look at this. Thank you.